One American bomber program was so advanced for its era that it could fly at 3 times the speed of sound while cruising above 70,000 feet, completely outrunning any Soviet interceptor of its day. It consumed billions of dollars and represented one of the most radical aircraft designs ever attempted. A single congressional decision killed it before it ever entered service, and the reason behind that decision still divides historians today. That aircraft is on this list, and exactly why America walked away from the fastest bomber ever built is something we will reveal at the end of this video. This is the complete story of every major American military aircraft program that failed, was cancelled, or never advanced past a handful of expensive prototypes. North American XB-70 Valkyrie. This is the aircraft from the hook. Designed to cruise at Mach 3 at extreme altitude, making it theoretically immune to Soviet interceptors of the early 1960s, the Valkyrie became strategically obsolete almost overnight when Soviet surface-to-air missile technology advanced enough to threaten high-altitude bombers regardless of speed, and Congress canceled the program in favor of investing in intercontinental ballistic missiles instead. Convair B-58 Hustler successor studies. While the B-58 itself entered limited service, several proposed successor variants intended to extend its range and payload never progressed past design studies, as the Air Force increasingly concluded that manned supersonic bombers faced an impossible cost-effectiveness comparison against emerging missile technology. Rockwell B-1A original program. The original B-1A variant was cancelled by President Carter in 1977, who argued that cruise missiles launched from existing bombers achieved similar strategic goals at a fraction of the cost, a politically explosive decision that was only reversed years later under a different administration with a significantly redesigned B-1B. Northrop F-20 Tigershark. Built specifically as an affordable export fighter for Allied nations who could not access the F-16, the Tigershark offered genuinely impressive performance and reliability during testing. But no export customer ultimately committed to purchasing it, largely because political pressure eventually allowed F-16 exports anyway, leaving the F-20 as a technically successful aircraft that simply arrived at the wrong moment in Cold War arms sales politics. Northrop YF-23. Competing directly against what would become the F-22 Raptor, the YF-23 demonstrated superior stealth characteristics and higher top speed during Air Force evaluation trials. The Air Force ultimately selected the rival Lockheed design, citing better maneuverability and lower perceived program risk, leaving the YF-23 as one of the most capable aircraft ever built that never entered production. General Dynamics F-16XL. A significantly modified F-16 variant with a distinctive cranked arrow delta wing offering substantially greater range and payload, the F-16XL lost a head-to-head Air Force evaluation to the F-15E Strike Eagle, despite genuinely impressive performance data, largely because the Strike Eagle's twin-engine design offered better survivability for the deep strike mission both aircraft were competing for. RAH-66 Comanche. Intended as a stealth reconnaissance and attack helicopter, the Comanche consumed over $6 billion in development costs across nearly 2 decades before being cancelled in 2004, the Army ultimately concluding that unmanned drones could perform much of its intended reconnaissance mission at a dramatically lower cost and risk to pilots. Bell/Boeing V-22 Osprey. Development crisis. While the Osprey eventually entered service, its development program was marked by a string of catastrophic crashes during testing throughout the 1990s that killed dozens of Marines and nearly resulted in the entire tilt-rotor concept being cancelled outright, a troubled history that continued to generate safety controversies for decades after it finally reached operational status. Convair NB-36H nuclear bomber testbed. An almost unbelievable Cold War experiment, this modified bomber actually carried an operating nuclear reactor aboard during test flights to study radiation shielding, part of a broader nuclear-powered aircraft program that was ultimately abandoned as impossibly expensive and dangerous once intercontinental ballistic missiles made the entire concept strategically unnecessary. Lockheed SEAL-1200 Lancer. A proposed lightweight fighter offered to the Air Force and export customers as a cheaper alternative to contemporary designs, the Lancer never secured a single order, quietly disappearing from Lockheed's product lineup after failing to generate meaningful interest against more established competitors. Boeing YC-14. Competing for a tactical airlifter contract eventually won by the McDonnell Douglas YC-15, later evolved into the C-17, the YC-14 demonstrated genuinely innovative upper-surface blowing technology for extremely short takeoff performance, technology that ultimately influenced later aircraft designs despite the YC-14 itself never entering production. Lockheed X-7 Ramjet testbed. An unmanned experimental vehicle used to test early ramjet engine technology at extreme speeds, the X-7 was never intended for operational service, but its test data directly informed the development of later American surface-to-air missile and reconnaissance drone propulsion systems. Boeing X-32. Competing directly against what would become the F-35 Lightning II in the Joint Strike Fighter competition, the X-32's distinctive chin intake design and different vertical landing approach ultimately lost to Lockheed's more refined proposal, ending Boeing's bid to build America's next-generation fighter jet. Lockheed Martin/Boeing YC-14 airborne laser. A modified Boeing 747 fitted with a megawatt-class chemical laser designed to shoot down ballistic missiles during their boost phase, the YC-14 successfully destroyed test missiles during trials, but the program was cancelled in 2011 due to enormous per-unit operating costs and the impracticality of keeping the aircraft constantly airborne near potential launch sites. Sikorsky-Boeing SB-1 Defiant. A coaxial rotor helicopter developed to compete in the Army's future long-range assault aircraft program, the Defiant ultimately lost to Bell's V-280 Valor tilt-rotor design, ending years of development on a genuinely innovative high-speed helicopter configuration. Each aircraft on this list represented a genuine attempt to push American aviation technology forward, and nearly every failure taught engineers something that shaped the aircraft that came after it. The YF-23 stealth research influenced later programs even after losing to the F-22. The Comanche sensor technology found new life in unmanned systems. The X-7's ramjet data informed missile propulsion for decades. American military aviation history is not simply a story of unbroken triumph, but a much messier and more honest story of expensive risks, political reversals, and technological dead ends that, even in failure, quietly built the foundation for the aircraft flying today.